This is I Dare You with me, Francesca Escoto, your host, where professional women over 40 get the courage to embark on a new adventure. Hello, Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of I Dare You. Our audience is eager to hear about your professional and life experience. And so I'm so glad that you were able to join us and be part of our conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
What is Crafty Chica?
Well, Crafty Chica is a brand that I started in 2001 because I realized that, yes, I realized that I'm an artist, a maker, a writer, and I noticed that in the craft industry, it's like over $40 billion. There was very, very little to none representation of Latino-centric culture, either in tutorials, products, books, workshops, any of that. So instead of complaining about it, I launched a website, craftychica.com, where I share all different types of all of those things, but with like a little Latin twist on them. The Crafty Chica twist. I'm third generation Mexican American, and I just wanted it to come very natural and organic. Like I feel like I'm saving the world to have this. I'm sharing my experience of what makes me happy and hoping that it will inspire other people to infuse their culture, handcrafts, and different things like that. So because of that, it just sprouted off into all of these amazing things. Like I've authored 12 different books. I have all these different product lines. I teach workshops. I've done like craft cruises on cruise lines, like all kinds of fun adventures. And I always love to tell people that it's just a matter of coming up with an idea and knowing the end goal and kind of reverse engineering it. But the main thing is taking the steps to move forward to make it happen.
So I didn't know you had published 12 books up until now. I knew that you were publishing. I think the last time we saw each other in person, you were maybe on your second book, I want to say. I don't remember right now, but OMG, congratulations.
Thank
on being
you.
such a prolific writer. I know the effort it takes to get a book from beginning to end and out into the world. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, thank you for sharing your passion and your drive and your reason for starting. Okay. I want to talk business today. Like I want to talk shop. Okay. Yes. So you start with passion, but you still have to like pick a starting point, right? Like you have to be pragmatic about turning that passion into something. So what was your very first, minimum viable product in the software world, or, I don't know, your Frankenstein?
Well, I think what's interesting is with community. I started by building, at the time I didn't exactly know what I was doing, but I had my website. I was not monetizing it, but I was all of these free craft tutorials. And this was during the MySpace era. And I was able to build a really fun, engaging community of who were interested in my content and my ideas, and it inspired them to come up with their stuff as well. And one of the things that I did was all of the products that I used, I would look at the manufacturer on the bottle. Like you could pick up thing, look at who makes it. I'd find them on MySpace at the time, and then later on it was Facebook, Instagram, all the other ones, and I would tag them and I would say, look what I'm doing, your product. And if there was this one glue company that I loved, and they ended up hiring me to demo in their booth at a trade show. And before I worked with them, I just started pitching ideas until they eventually I had a speaking engagement, and the marketing team told the vice president of came to see my speaking engagement at the craft convention. So pay attention to the products you're using and find the that goes with your industry. So for me, it was the craft industry. So I became, and I went in and I offered to teach classes and do speaking engagement. And the vice president from there was like, we want to hear your ideas. And that's how I was able to launch my first national product line. It ended up coming out in Michael's all over the country. And it really is, even before then, I would take my paints and make my own labels or even stickers. So I didn't know that exactly what I was doing, but little did I know then I was actually manifesting and just incorporating it into my normal reality that, yeah, I have my own product line. So that the thing is, and since then I learned that I really like partnering with manufacturers when product idea, as opposed to me doing all of the work, sourcing it, reaching out to the company, having to have pallets of the item. That so I have, which is a very lucrative path. Like I know a lot of very successful when they have a product and they manufacture it themselves, but you have to fight for you. And for me, I'm a hyper creative. I knew I wanted to keep designing, so therefore I partner with different manufacturers, non-competitive manufacturers. So I have a line of licensed fabric. I have paper crafting, greeting cards, planners. I have ceramic bisque line for paint on pottery studios. So that way they all tell a story of my style brand, but they don't compete with each other.
And now here we are 23 years later, right? So I don't want people to hear this and be like, oh my goodness, that's my goal. I'm going to be in Michael's next year and I'm going to have
you can start with one at a time. Start with one at a time. And so, the shortcut is the trade show, like industry's trade show.
So let's backtrack, because there were a few things that you mentioned that I want us to go over. One is the trade show. And then how do you find the trade show? How do you get invited? Can you pay your way in? What are the fees? And so we'll talk about trade shows. The other thing is finding manufacturers. So some of the people listening probably have an idea for a product, and they're wondering, well, you know, I have to go spend $100,000 patenting my product and getting it out there, and, you know, finding, how do I even find a manufacturer? So those two. And then the last one is, you talked about, and I know that, I'm going to say, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe a little bit more, we were in the blogger space, right? We were bloggers. And so we saw ourselves perhaps as bloggers. So the third question is, I'm wondering how your identity might have changed since then and how you might see yourself today. So we can start with the trade show.
Yes. So I think even before that, I really looked at my Crafty Chica brand as like a big umbrella. At like Oprah, J-Lo, the Pioneer Woman, Tabitha Brown, Martha Stewart, the way that they are their brand. And then they have different avenues that come off of that. So that was kind of like, thinking big. Yes, I just started thinking on a national level. When I would do press for my brand, I would go national to reach out to national publications too. It just helped to create like a really fun story. And then for the trade show industry, usually what happens is that trade organization will have member fees. So you sign up as a member. For example, the Greeting Card Association. You can join the Greeting Card Association and it gets you into the greeting card that happens several times throughout the year. And once you are a member, different benefits, like they usually have community boards, they usually have all these different perks to help support your business. And at the actual trade show is where the manufacturers, that's how I had my products get into Barnes and Noble store because the buyer came through the greeting card show, and my the manufacturer had a display there. So it gets you one-on-one
All
with
right,
the
let me
decision
pause right there.
makers.
So the manufacturer that makes your product is at a trade show. Barnes and Noble meets your manufacturer,
Yes.
and the manufacturer pitches your product to Barnes and
Yes.
Noble. Okay.
Yes. And I was, I can go say, oh, I'll go to San Francisco to do a meet and greet in the booth. So I was there for 2 days. I had little giveaway packets. My display of cards was there. People would come up. Hi, I'm Kathy Murillo, the Crafty Chica. This is my greeting free sample for you. Oh, hi, I'm the buyer from Cost Plus Imports, or I'm the buyer from World Market, or from Barnes and Noble. So, the buyers come through to buy merchandise for. So
yes.
it's worth it paying that fee if you're partnered. There's a lot of independent businesses too, like companies their own greeting cards and fulfill their own orders. They have booths there too, and they have buyers. So it's just something to explore. So if you're in the beauty industry, the fitness industry, the apparel industry, licensing, art, crafts, greeting cards, all of those have different trade memberships that you can join. And
All right,
that
I'm
is
gonna have
how
to
I
stop
got
you
my
there
foot in the door.
again. I have to stop you again because, as you might know, I am also an artist like you, and that is a new passion, something that I have developed in the last 4 years or so. So I want to go back to licensing art for a second. This is absolutely for me, audience, because I'm learning a lot from Kathy right now. So are you saying that there is an art licensing trade show or trade organization?
Yes. So there's several.
Oh.
So I think two big art licensing shows where set up a booth of your designs, and then the buyers come. You could either have your art and then put it on their products, or you can already have items on them. So there's different ways to work it. And then there's also online organizations that you can join as well. And for me, like the greeting card line in general, they found me through LinkedIn, because I use LinkedIn as a way to share my business accomplishments, because LinkedIn isn't so much like an Instagram or a TikTok or Facebook. It's business people wanting to connect with other business people. So I do a lot of business through LinkedIn by connecting with corporate companies, corporate clients to do custom work or to develop a product line, different things like that. It just goes to show that there's a lot of resources out there. But I think the main thing as an artist is to really hone in on your style and be able to adapt it. Like, for example, I had a gift wrap collection for a national retailer. I had a meeting Friday where there were 3 of the designs that they said no. So now today I have to do 3 new designs to replace those, and they have to coordinate with what I already designed. They have to be on trend for 2025, and they have to be in my authenticity of what I create. So you have to be able to shift, move, and realize that being an artist is where you can create your own work, whatever you want. No one can tell you anything. But when you're designing for a client, you have to come through for them of what will help sell. So it's a win-win for both of you. So that took me a little bit of time to wrap my head around that and realize, like, hey, what is the store? What is the brand? What is that consumer like? How does it fit for me? And then come up with something that fits naturally with that, as opposed to just saying, this is what I make. If you don't like it, I'm sorry,
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that leads us to the second point, which is I forgot now what the second bullet was, but I think it was product.
Uh-huh.
And so, is there magic to selecting that first product that, when it was time to go from community engagement to
Uh-huh.
product selling, right? There's a transition.
Yes.
And so I understand that it all happened kind of at that trade show, and Michael's,
Uh-huh.
dude, what a great way to start.
It was
But
scary because it was the first time for me, and I didn't know what, like, I think that was really a struggle point for me because I'm a general crafter. I do everything. I sew, I paint, I do ceramics, I do wood burning. So to pick one lane, what we started with was like paints and glitters and supplies. And then I had my designs that I created. Immediately, we knew that the design sold better than the glitters and the paints because you could buy glitter and paint from anyone. And there was better formulations or more affordable formulations. So the next round, we just lopped those off and I focused on the design so that someone look at it and say, that's a Crafty Chica design.
And if I remember correctly, you started with sugar skulls, no?
No, that was later on down the line.
Oh,
So
okay.
another thing to do is you can use your local community to create your products and do pop-ups around town and pay attention to the best sellers. And then you just zero in on those best sellers. Now, what happened with Michael's at the time, as we went through the program, we could see what the top sellers were, and Day of the Dead was always in the top sellers. So the next year they said, give us a Day of the Dead, just all Day of the Dead. And then through that, it was like, okay, so let's break it down. Like, let's have a face paint kit. Let's have temporary tattoos. Let's have stencils. Let's have craft papers. So it's really paying attention to your best sellers and then building out from there. So I highly recommend creating your prototype product line and then participating in local pop-ups to see where people spend their money. What are the best sellers? What are the ones that don't sell? And focus on the best sellers.
And, here's the thing, and I think it's important for everyone listening to both reflect on this and get ready for this. Sometimes the thing you love the most is not what people fall in love with. And so you have to be willing to, and it's from the beginning, right? I think because you mentioned that it took you a minute to figure out that what I call product market fit, right? Like there's me, there's the market, and then there's some space that is, in common for both of us. And if I am thinking of art, but it could be any product. You could be into hair products. It could be weight loss products. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you fall in love too hard with your first idea, it's gonna be hard to allow the idea to grow and become to evolve into what the client wants.
Yeah.
So what would you say about that? I mean, that's my perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it all comes down to numbers. Like you can even do A/B testing with your friends and family of like, which of these two is your favorite? Would you buy? And no room for comments or anything, just quickly like which one, and then narrow it down that way. But I think that is a really important thing because even now, like I have my items at these different boutiques and I'll make stuff that I love and it won't sell as much as the other stuff. But sometimes I'll leave it because it's still me and I love having it there. And there is that one person who will come by and connect with it. But that's because it's just me and then a local boutique. Now, working with a national retailer or a boutique that you don't know them and you want it to do good, you really have to pay attention to your best sellers. You want to give them your best things and then that becomes your new normal. and then you evolve off of that. And for you have all of your best sellers, and then you create space for one or two new things, and then you just grow from there. And it's just important because you want for them to make money, you want the customer to be happy, and you to be able to make money and keep it going. So yeah,
Absolutely.
sometimes you have to let go. I had this one product director, she called it our ugly babies. Like sometimes the ones that are at the bottom, they're like, oh, we love them, they're our babies, but in this specific category, there are ugly babies, take them out. But in another situation, they'll be the beautiful babies and they'll be the
Yes,
sellers. So
absolutely.
because it doesn't fit one thing, you can take it out and find another place where it will fit well.
Okay. So let's talk about your identity as a business person. And so I guess because the way we came together was through blogging, I assumed that you saw yourself as a blogger, but you're telling me that from the beginning, you saw your brand as something more
Yes. And I still
encompassing.
have my blog now. It's still a big part of my business. I have an ad network on there. I update it every, couple times a week with new ideas. It's still very live and a good place. And I know that, I'm a former journalist. I used to be a newspaper columnist. So even though I'm a blogger, I hate the terms like a blogger or content creator. I like saying like a writer or author, or artist, but for people to understand, I don't care. I'm like, yes, I'm a blogger. I have my blog.
I am also a blogger.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So you think of yourself more as an author or artist.
Yeah, like I'm more like to say like a hyper creative. I just
Okay.
do all the things, all the
You do
things.
all the things. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I understand that. My brain is like software, nonprofit, art. And so in between there, you kind of have to
Yes.
do a little bit of all the things.
Mm-hmm.
However, okay, so that puts things into perspective. If you had someone in front of you right now, say me, who says, I have a product, what's step one?
Okay, so I would say product, like who does it serve? Like what
Mhm.
problem does it solve?
Yes.
Um, research online to see if someone else has a product like it. How is your product different? What are the features and benefits of your
Mm-hmm.
product? And this is something I learned from, I had to do HSN, and we went through this program, and my favorite takeaway was like we just had to pick anything up and say what is the benefit of this. So practice that with your product, of
Yes.
just like to fit all these different personalities, of like, this is great because it opens like this, and so that means that you won't have trouble pulling out. It's just so easy up with all of the features and benefits for
Mm-hmm.
different types of consumers with your product. And do your testing with the market. How do people respond to it? Units can you sell of it? Take note of the feedback of how to make it better. Once you feel really good about it, that's when you can really put it out there, push it. If you want to partner with the manufacturer, you can look up that company, of how to reach out to them. Or even a lot of times the retailers now have programs where they will carry your product. If it is a product like a cream, like hair care or anything like that, you have to, art supplies, you have to be aware of the weather conditions all over the
Mm-hmm.
country. Because I heard a story one time of this one young woman who had this hair care line, and she adapted it for her weather conditions, and she sold it to a national retailer, and they had to create it in volume. Her product, it separated once it got to the dry heat. So there is I think it's called like the 4 rooms to test it in. It's like dry, not dry, wet, dry, wet, wet, and something else. So have a product that's like, cream based or anything like that, you need to put it through those types of climates to make sure it will hold firm. Because what happens if you have a product and you don't have a factory to produce it all, you to source out a manufacturer to create it for you and give them your formula. They have to reformulate it for these weather conditions. You just lost your control of that product because you didn't formulate it for those weather conditions. They did. So they get the money for that. So it's just, there's a lot to prepare yourself, educate yourself on what kind of product it is. With craft companies, with glues, that this company had a new glue. They made it in the Southwest, and I had to go demo in Florida, and it did not hold up to the humidity. It just came apart. And oh my God. It's like, how do I sell this product? Like, I had to like, this doesn't work for humidity. So do your due diligence on your product and make sure it can withstand all the different elements. And that's something I have thought of, and that's why I like to mention it to people.
So let's talk real quick about formulations, because maybe someone wants to do a feminine product, or maybe they're thinking of, I don't know, a men's aftershave, right? Whatever. But these are all formulations. How does one even start? Now, I have some ideas. I'm wondering.
I don't have experience with formulations like that. Okay. So I'm not the best person to ask. However, I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff out there you could find, like on YouTube or TikTok, of how to do that. But I'm sure there's a lot of layers to go through to figure that out. So I don't feel comfortable sharing for formulations like that.
No problem. I appreciate you. So I know that you need, typically, depending on the formulation, you're going to need a chemist who does that. Now, I don't know how to get in touch with chemists, but you have a starting point if you're listening, and that's you. And
if you join a trade association, they will have, a lot of times they have whole workshops on it. So that's another reason to look into the industry aspect.
That's right. Because when you're there, you can meet not just one chemist, but different, an individual, it might be an institution, it might be a small business. So depending on your comfort and what you want your product to be, you would have options of who to work with to get things going. And then once you have a formulation, you can then work with a manufacturer to actually go ahead and do the larger scale of that. However, you can start in your kitchen. And so don't nobody think that this all starts with finding a chemist.
Right,
you're going to want to do some experimenting yourself.
Exactly,
so that you can bring the starting point to that chemist. And you could even do a lot of testing of products before you even talk to, in this case, I'm saying chemist, but it could be anything that you might need to do large scale manufacturing of any product. You can test it before you go that far in the process.
Yes, definitely. So, it all starts in our house, in our kitchen, in our craft room.
That's right. That's right. It all starts with the little steps that you take when you're courageously pursuing something new, even when you're afraid, and you go and you do it anyways. So, Kathy, tell me, when do you practice courage? When, like, do you still get scared? Do you still?
All the time.
Tell me more.
Well, it's so easy feel dejected or feel like it's out of your, or you don't know enough, or an opportunity is passed, or maybe peaked, or this or that. I do a lot of affirmations, a lot of journaling to say I am not signing on to those narratives, because they come in so easy. I have so many ways to type of negative thinking so that I can move forward with my passion. So
Mhm.
one of the ways, if I'm busy working on something and a thought comes in, I'll imagine it like little clouds, and my sky is blue and it's beautiful and I'm moving forward. A thought comes in, I like tap the cloud away, like, nope,
Oh,
we're keeping the blue sky. Nope. Another one I have done
I
is at
love that.
nighttime. Sometimes at nighttime, if I can't sleep because, if I'm worrying about something, I will imagine that I'm going into the back end of a computer program and I do a search string on this false narrative that pops in and I delete it.
That is
I
so techy.
highlight
I
it
love
and
it.
delete it. So I'm very visual. Those are little things that I do just to immediately get them out.
Yeah.
But I shifted my mindset. This happened a
Mm.
couple years ago where I stopped thinking about like having these types of goals, and now I look more at experiences. you,
Mm.
you know what? I want to know the feeling of what it would like to have an end cap at Barnes and Noble. And it has my logo on there. It has my blank journals. It has this, it has that, it has notepads. Like, oh, I want to have that experience. I want to have the experience of what would it be like to put my money in this slot machine and have it win the jackpot. Like, I
Mhm.
want to have that. Like, I put in orders to the universe,
Yes.
like the way we put in our order when we order dinner at a restaurant or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
And I have found that to be, it makes life so much more fun and eventful
Mm.
because you never know. Like, my first thing, I've been saying that one for a couple of years, like, what is the feeling of winning a jackpot on a slot machine? And I don't go to the casino a lot, but when I would go, like for a conference or speaking or wherever I'd happen to be there, I'm like, okay, this, it did happen one time, but in like a different way. And then another time on my birthday was the one I asked for because I had
Ah.
put in, um, like there was like $6 left on the thing. I put it in and it hit. And all the buffaloes, like a giant screen, are all like charging towards me. The lights are going off and my daughter's like, what did you do, and I go, I hit the jackpot. So I mean, you really have
Wow.
to believe that, or for me, I believe that I'm here for a temporary time
Yes.
having this human experience. It's like Disneyland. There's a lot of experiences to
Mhm.
choose from. So I start curating them to fit my lifestyle, for myself, for my family, for my community, for people I love. Like, how can I make the most of this human experience and leave the place better than when I got here? And once I
That
took
is
that
so
pressure,
inspiring.
it's like once I took the pressure off of myself to, there's no, I don't feel like there's need to compete or to keep score or to measure things like that. It just kind of helped dissolve all that anxiety because I recognize that everyone else is having their own human experience as well. And
Mhm.
we all have our things to offer. There is plenty enough for everybody. And it's just help make life a lot easier, a lot more fun, and a lot more rewarding. Does everything hit? No. Sometimes it hits in weird ways. I had it's just crazy the things of, I had wanted a certain amount of money to make on my ad network. And I was like, and I kept journaling about it. And because I saw how much other people were making a month on theirs. And I'm like, I know I'm worthy of this. Like, I want to have this experience of what would it be like to make $30,000 a month on my blog with these ads. Well, wouldn't you know, I get this offer to run political ads on my blog for $30,000 a month. And I'm like, it's a hard pass. I do not want political ads on my blog, even though
Yeah, yeah,
every so
yeah.
often, once in a while, one will sneak through, but it's not supposed to. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I got exactly what I asked for.
Mhm.
So you never know how you have to be specific in things and have a sense of humor with it. But it's, it's, I just like looking at things that way of experiences, as opposed to like, I want to make $1 million by the time I'm this age. It's more like, I want to know the experience of just being able to book a flight to Paris for a weekend and not give it a second thought, and like,
Right.
my business will keep running the way it's supposed to, and I go and have a great time and try these different restaurants, buy a really cool outfit, and then come home and tell other people how they can do it too. So it's, you see that shift. It's like,
absolutely, absolutely. And so a couple of things are coming to mind. One, it's very inspiring to hear that, because I have not ever been big on New Year's resolutions, and I'm a coach, right? And everybody's all about goals. And I've always felt that goals were very impersonal.
They
There's no
stress us
story.
out.
Yeah, there's no story to a goal, right? It's a very in the technical world, for me, it's very black and white. It's a code, it's a formula, and it's a 1, 2 equals 3, and that's it. And so vision boards, on the other hand, are something I have really enjoyed doing.
Yes.
And I can think of the last maybe 4 vision boards I have done that I can go back and actually keep them and be like, I did all the things.
Yes.
I did all the things. There was an image, there was a feeling associated with it, there was an experience to it. I could visualize what the end result would be. And sometimes I think when we focus too much on goals, we become process focused, rather than open to how else can this result happen. Because now I'm very focused on what it's going to look like, right? Not on the 3 things I have to do, but rather, kind of opening myself up to the whole journey, being whatever
like,
it needs
another
to be.
really helpful thing is, there's this thing I heard one time. It's called the 7 layers of why. So as you choose something that is important to you, like the Barnes and Noble end cap, I would say, why is this important to me? And then I come up with that answer. Okay, why is that? Like, you keep going to the why. Yes. And then sometimes you can tell, oh my God, it's all ego based. Or other times you can go, oh, because I remember being in 2nd grade and going, oh, I want to have my book, at a bookstore where people will walk by and see it, because I know I have a good story to share. So doing the 7 layers of why, and you could look it up, or just keep asking why, and it can get really emotional, but it's a good exercise to do as you're working on your vision boards, as you're working on your journaling, or even if something is really bothering you, like say you had a situation with someone, you could say, why is this bothering? What is it? Because they say every trigger that represents an unhealed wound. And we're responsible for healing our own wounds, right?
That's
so
right.
We could be the best version of ourselves. So you have to ask, like, why is this bothering me? And, and I have those situations that come up where I'm like, wow, I had this and this person has that, and that person's getting a lot of spotlight for their thing, but mine was double the word. And I'm like, Kathy, why does it bother you? Like, do you like, is it middle child syndrome? Like, why do you feel like you've already had plenty of spotlight for your thing? Let her enjoy the spotlight. Like, everything goes, we all take turns. So once I able to process the whys, I was able to let it go, and then just be like, this is cool, I'm happy things worked out the way they did. And it just feels healthier.
And that's what I was going to talk about. I in this podcast, I talk a lot about courage, the courage to do the hard things, and the courage to pursue the things that we really want in life. And I think that people confuse procrastination, for example, with fear, and with what I'm going to call the wrong source. For example, anger and fear are very, very strong motivators, but they feel a certain way in our body that is very different from courage and love. I have this little thing flying in front of me. So when you are in a position to overcome fear or to fight for something, sometimes anger is the thing that will get you to fight, right? Anger and destruction is necessary for new things to be born. However, it is not sustainable. Right. And so when you have like the thing where you start and then you stop, you start and then you stop, or you keep putting it off, it might be that the source of that motivation is anger-based or fear-based, and that's why it's not sustainable. You might be doing it for the wrong reasons, which is why you can never quite follow through or stick with the thing. So if you're listening, this is why coaching is important. This is why you want to make sure that you have that outside perspective, that someone that can help you kind of be real with yourself and help you go through the 7 whys. Because sometimes, you know, I'm at a point now where like 2 questions in, I'm like, oh yeah, it's ego. I don't need 7 anymore.
We're like, right? We cut to the chase, like, oh,
yes, okay. Yeah, because I can catch myself, right? But I still have people that hold me accountable in my world and that speak that language, because not everybody knows how to do that process of self evaluation and that introspection, right? And I think, what would you say about this, Kathy? I think that business forces you to grow. Having your own business requires that you look at yourself and do the work in order for your business to grow.
Yes, because you are forced to, if you have people pleasing issues, you need to fix those real quick or your business will crash and burn. I had a really hard lesson back in 2021 where I had to stand up for myself and really rock the boat, you know, of do something I never in a million years thought I would step on. I didn't want to anyone's toes, and I ended up flipping the whole table. But it was like, so I had been holding on to those unhealthy patterns decades because of generational trauma or just the way we were raised. Of just suck it up and don't rock the boat, don't offend anyone. You know, you sacrifice yourself and your feelings and your self-care so you don't upset anyone. And it reached a point where I was sacrificing everything. I had diminished myself so much and made myself so small not to offend someone that I lost myself. And it took my calling me out. And then as soon as I realized it, I just like got the power, strength to rip off the Band-Aid, and I lost friendships over that were really, I found out weren't really friendships, all fake. But it took me doing that for myself to be revealed. And since I learned that lesson, now I'm, when those patterns show up again, I'm like, oh no,
there it is.
We are not going. Been there, done that. Like, bought the t-shirt, no more. And so, and something interesting that spins off of that is I noticed that in my life, I would jump to a new level in my business of success. There was always an antagonist person who, like, it was an editor who was always, I'm leaving the paper and I'm going to do Craft and Chica full time. It was, you know, this person, this said, well, I'm going to do this, you know, there was always an antagonist. So when I reached a load of antagonists and I was able to put a stop to it, now the is how to move forward and be successful without an antagonist, because that was always my motivator. So now I'm like, I would always the quote behind every successful woman is someone who pissed her off. And now I don't have pissing me off anymore. And so
Yes.
now I'm like, I have to motivate myself. I have to do it for me. And even though that's a little bit more of a challenge, like I'll show them and I got this and they don't know how good I can do this. Now it's gone and it's just me. So it's a different, like the man versus himself kind of thing.
Yes.
Man versus man, man versus himself kind of thing. So and I'm enjoying it because I feel like even more I realize I have nothing stopping me now. Like I've healed those parts of me. So that's when the experience mindset clicked in, where I was like, I don't want to have crazy goals to show off or to prove myself to anyone. I want to thrive with ease. I want to have experiences. I want to live soft. I'm done with the hustle era of things.
I loved live soft.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna sit on that for a minute after we finish here, because that sounded like something I really want to experience. All right, Kathy, I could talk to you forever, but we're coming to the end here. Tell me, what is next for Kathy?
Well, I have a lot of different projects work. I have 2 new book projects that I'm working on.
Wow.
A lot of illustration projects coming up through 2025 and 6. But for now, check out my website at craftychica.com. I always list new projects on my social media, on my TikTok. I do types of storytelling on there. So just come hang out.
All right, awesome. So everybody, craftychica.com, and all the socials and on her website, you can hang out with Kathy, learn more about her product lines, and how she goes about being in this world and creating experiences. I love it. And she lives softly. Thank you, Kathy, so much for being here. I will definitely want to hear more about the books when they come out. So maybe you can come back at that time.
Okay, yes, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.